Campaign 2018 is sponsored by Wisconsin Hospital Association, Wisconsin Counties Association, Wisconsin Realtors Association, Marshfield Clinic Health System, AARP Wisconsin, and Campaign 2018 partner Milwaukee Journal Sentinel.
Republican Representative Rob Swearengin of Rhinelander is seeking re-election in the 34th Assembly District. Rob, welcome back to Wisconsin Eye.
Thank you very much, Steve. Always good to be here.
As I read and hear things, you've been critical of our impasse in the Capitol on highway funding. How should we resolve that? Your caucus put forth a plan. Governor wouldn't go with it. Senate wouldn't go with it. How can we get off the schneid here?
Right. So, and it's still here again. We are 2 years later, and I'm still frustrated that we didn't get a better job done. I think we moved the ball down the field. My big concern was the bonding and that initial proposal from the governor's office. So we got beyond. We were able to kind of push that back a little bit. Thank you to Representative Nygren and the rest of the Joint Finance that we didn't put any more money on the credit card. So that leaves what new potential revenue streams do we have? And so I like to say that I like to look at everything. I don't know that there's a silver bullet for transportation at this point, given last session's impasse. But we were able to, I think we moved the ball down the field. So do we look at raising registration fees, license fees? Do we look at a potential raise in the gas tax? We just put a little more onus on the electric and hybrid car owners.
Yep.
I think that's a good step. They're using the road just like anything else is doing. Tolling to me is an option that I really entertain. I think it could be done quicker than what most people think. However, I think we still need the federal waiver from the Trump administration to get it done, which could be a year or two down the road, so that doesn't help. And I know the governor just mentioned too, and I thought this was interesting, that perhaps we should take a portion of new car sales tax and move that into the transportation revenue. So that's a thought. So I think that these are all the discussions that we need to continue to have during this next budget cycle.
Do you think we can break the impasse in the next session, Rob?
I think we have to. And I know that Speaker Voss was very vocal in this last session and kind of butted heads a little bit with the Senate and the governor. But we did move the ball down the field. And my concern, of course, as a rural legislator is to make sure that if there's any priorities with transportation, that I still get my fair share of the pie in the Northwoods. And so far, we've been lucky with the construction projects in the north. And so I'm content at this point, but we'll see what happens next budget cycle.
The tax breaks, the tax benefits given Foxconn led Kimberly Clark to seek similar. I think you voted for the Kimberly Clark package on February 22nd. Mm-hmm. But the larger issue is, what in the future, what are the guidelines when state government should bail out is one term, help private business?
Yeah, you have to be very careful on corporate buyout, or bailout rather. Kimberly Clark actually came through the State Affairs Committee in the Assembly, so I moved it out of State Affairs to the full Assembly for that vote. So I voted for it twice, actually. Kimberly Clark has been a major player in the Valley, and we could not afford to lose those jobs. So I'm excited that the Senate is going to come back and hopefully vote that bill out of the committee, or rather off the Senate to the governor's desk. Mm-hmm. But it still remains on whether or not other companies should get the same treatment. And I think that's where we have to look at case by case treatment on these issues. So Foxconn, 13,000 jobs headed our way, I hope, right? At the very least, these people will be doing some vacationing all over the state. I am aware that there are contracts as far north as Wausau for Foxconn. In Rhinelander, the Expira Mill does business with a Foxconn supplier out of their De Pere locations. We've already had that impact in Rhinelander. As well as I got a buddy that sells heavy machines, heavy equipment. His business is on fire because they are supplying Foxconn engineers and developers with heavy equipment. So there has already been a good impact in the Northwoods when it comes to Foxconn. And Kimberly Clark, obviously not quite the same magnitude as Foxconn, but still I think another good decision if we can get that one through.
You voted for a state budget that raised state aid to K-12 schools by more than $600 million. when local school officials, superintendents, school board members say, thank you very much, we need another similar big increase in the next budget? Do you agree?
So education, let's put it this way, kids are our best investment, right? We love our kids. I will put my schools in the Northwoods up against any school in the state of Wisconsin. I love our administrators, our teachers, our kids. Everybody's doing a great job. So $634 million, and that it would, plus the 200 per year, 17 or really 18 and 19 in the students, is a great investment. Is it enough? I think that they always will get their fair shake when they come asking. I think that education is, it's obviously a huge part of the budget. So I would look at anything to keep our schools happy. Declining enrollment in my area is part of the problem. I mean, each one of those kids is worth a pretty good chunk of money. So if you're down 30, 40, 50 kids over a couple of years, it's a serious impact. So in addition to that, we've added, we have to keep these kids where they are. I mean, I want them to go to school, I want them to graduate, but we have implemented the Fab Lab program in a lot of these high schools. And my thought and my support behind Fab Labs is unwavering, because I'm in high hopes that these kids will either take their Fab Lab experience and go to a 2-year technical college like Nicolay College in Rhinelander, or they could opt not to do that and go right into the workforce. But the key is, I want them to stay in the Northwoods. I want them to raise their own family in the Northwoods and have their kids go to school in the Northwoods. But all this, we have to have family-sustaining jobs. And so that's part of the kind of the discussion behind the Fab Lab program.
You've watched the Voucher the Choice program grow, started out in Milwaukee, Racine, now statewide. Your district probably doesn't have a lot of choice schools?
No.
Has choice grown enough? Should we hold it there?
So I think we're at 3, 4, 5%, whatever it is. We got 424 school districts. You got 800,000 kids. I don't believe the choice program is going away. I don't think it should go away. I think that parents and students should have that choice on where they want to go to school. So I think we should watch it grow, make sure those income limits are still in place maybe. But I think I'm comfortable with at the pace at which it's growing at now.
Okay. The debate next session's over Department of Corrections. Green Bay Waupun, built in the 1800s. Do you think we need a new state prison?
So the quick answer is yes. Building a new prison is not going to get any cheaper. And I think we're talking of upwards of $300 million. But clearly any savings is going to come at a decent facility that can be maybe potentially combined with others, a good place for these treatment programs for these inmates. So the answer is yes, but it is a major, major investment for the state of Wisconsin. But we better be talking about it now in this budget cycle. I know, my friend Representative Dave Steffen has got, has done a lot of homework on this issue, and firmly believes that Alloway prison should be replaced.
Yes.
And hopefully in that same area.
Yeah.
And so I expect that'll be a full frontal discussion coming into this next budget cycle.
Local governments have lived with levy limits to control property taxes 14, 15 years. Some local officials say it hurts their ability. They're pinched to provide local services. But keep levy limits to control property taxes, dial them back, or get rid of them?
So I think we have to keep them. Part of my job, I have an obligation to the taxpayer to keep their property tax low. That being said, there are some communities that have a bigger pinch than others when it comes to the levy limits, and maybe those should be looked at, potentially tweaked, so that it fits a little better to some of those communities. But overall, I think the levy limits need to be kept in place.
When a local government adopts a wheel tax, do you have a problem with that?
I'm not a big wheel tax guy in general. I think there might be, hopefully other alternatives versus the wheel tax.
You'd like to solve that at the state level and not on a one-by-one?
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the wheel tax theory.
You campaign for re-election. You must hear about health care. How do we preserve and maybe expand health care in rural Wisconsin? Yeah,
health care continues to be an issue. Obviously, we're not getting any help from the federal government in terms of what went on with Obamacare, and we could use some more direction from the feds on that issue. Here in Wisconsin, reinsurance, thanks to Governor Walker. I think that that's going to help out in 2019. Should lower some of those premiums down to 3% or so. So that's a start. I get excited when I think about medical colleges like the one in Wausau. Maybe they can produce some doctors that will stay in the Northwoods. And then should we be looking at incentivizing those doctors to move into these rural areas, just like we do with teachers, or that discussion. So I think at this point it continues to be an issue. Obviously, people enjoy the Northwoods, but they also, if they're going to move there, they want to have good health care as well. So I think still a priority, but it continues to be frustrating.
Are you hearing from hospitals, nursing home administrators, other medical professionals that our Medicaid reimbursement rates are so low that they may be at a tipping point that threatens the quality of health care in these institutions? Are we at a tipping point?
Maybe not a tipping point, but certainly that's a conversation that comes up every session. I think we just raised it 2% in the last budget for some skilled nursing facilities. Yep. So that was a step in the right direction as well. But yeah, anytime that we can get some of those rates up a little bit to help providers, that's a win.
The state government and Delta Dental pilot program that provides dental care for the low income in some of these regional clinics. Do you have any in your district? Have you followed this pilot program?
I think that there are a couple of dentists that will take Delta Dental that might be able to offer that program. I think the state has fallen short on how we provide dental. So I would like to see how that program evolves. And I think that we should keep it and expand it.
There's a new issue that's being raised by AARP in terms of caregivers. AARP estimates that 578,000 Wisconsin residents provide care for a family member or a neighbor.
Sure.
So would you support laws or rules that require hospitals to recognize and work with family caregivers when a loved one is hospitalized? Has that issue come up?
Only personally, right? My mom was in a hospital for a couple of months last year, and I got a sister that took time off of work to care for my mother. We all kind of tag teamed, but she did the most. So it makes sense to me that you're gonna heal better if one of your family members is there actually giving the care to you, assuming, of course, that your family member knows how to do it. Mm-hmm. So if the hospital or the clinic would agree that this family member is capable of getting the job done, it would seem to me to make sense to allow them to do that and be compensated.
UW system budget, should we continue the freeze on resident undergrad tuition for 7th and 8th year?
So far we've saved students and their parents $6,000. And I think that we could do that again. I'd be for freezing it again. I do have some concern, or I guess at some point we need to stop and step back, take a look at the bigger picture, see what's going on with the UW. I agree that the UW, especially Madison, is still the Cadillac of all the UWs in the state of Wisconsin. I don't think they're floundering. I don't think they're hurting. I think Ray Cross does a fantastic job, quite frankly. But at some point we have to step back and take a look to see if this is something that we should continue. But yeah, I agree. It should go on. At this point, for sure, another session or so. I mean, keep in mind, it wasn't that long ago when we discovered that UW was sitting on about $1 billion, and they were told to spend that down. I'm not sure that really ever happened, or if that money is still there. But I think that we owe that to the students and the parents to keep that going.
You have voted for the HOPE agenda bills, yet northern Wisconsin has a major methamphetamine problem. What are your thoughts on next steps to address the epidemic of methamphetamine,
right,
or opioid or heroin abuse?
Yeah, and all the kudos goes to Representative Nygren. I think we've got 30 bills now that addresses this issue in the state. I believe the opioid prescriptions are down as a result of our HOPE agenda. I think that's a positive. You've got these doctors looking at, do we really need to make these prescriptions? What scares me is how it has affected my assembly district. Eagle River, Minocqua, Woodruff, Rhinelander. These are places that 10 years ago, 15 years ago, if you had a drug bust, that was the news of the area. That just didn't happen in the Northwoods. We were kind of like untouched by that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. Not so much anymore. I talked to the Eagle River Police Chief, or Joe Pfaff, the county sheriff, or Grady Hartman in the Oneida County Sheriff. And it's real. and it's scary. It's scary for parents. It's scary for the kids. So I'm all in on anything we can do to help law enforcement or educate the people on how this stuff is getting in, or who to call or how to report it. But it is an epidemic, and it's hard to believe that it has made it into the Northwoods.
But there are advisory referendums and bills in the legislature that would legalize both recreational and medical marijuana. Where are you on those?
So last session we did do some CBD stuff by prescription. I think that was an okay. I was okay with that. Maybe medical. I would take a look at any bill that addressed medical marijuana. But as far as recreational, in my opinion, it's a gateway drug. And I would not be in favor of opening that up. So I'm kind of a no on recreational marijuana.
You've been a leader on tourism issues in northern Wisconsin. How's the tourism industry doing this season that's coming to an end?
We've had a couple of banner years in the Northwoods.
Okay.
Both last year and this year for sure. Tourism is up. I think it's up 20 billion for the state, and Stephanie Klett and her team at Travel Wisconsin just do a fantastic job, not just promoting the Northwoods, but all over. Mm-hmm. So it's been good. The frustration, though, I will tell you, and I would call it maybe a priority, although I'm not sure that there's much we can do about it, is we are short of help. The worker shortage in the Northwoods, especially during the summertime, and it's not just the tourism industry, right. It's all over. You see help wanted signs. So I'm not sure how we're going to address that. But that is something that is certainly on the front burner for me. Is it temporary housing? Is it more affordable housing? But once we get these workers, we need to have a place for them to stay as well. So it is on one hand, we're busy, and on the other hand, we're shorthanded. And it's been tough to bridge that gap.
You've heard some Democrats say, let's address that by raising the minimum wage. Bad idea?
Minimum wage really doesn't have anything to do with it, because I'll pay whatever it takes for somebody to come work for me. And
so you're paying above the $7.25.
Yeah, $7.25 is irrelevant at this point.
Okay.
Unless you're maybe a dishwasher or something. But you pay what you have to get them to work and get them to return.
Finally, you want to highlight differences between you and your opponent on November 6th?
Oh, I really don't know much about the guy. He's a retired teacher, as I understand it. He was in the military, which I certainly respect his service to us. I know that he's been hitting me up on broadband issues, and I know he jokes about the broadband problem in the Northwoods. Quite frankly, the Northwoods, the 34th Assembly District, has gotten the most broadband grants of any Assembly District in the state of Wisconsin. And I think we've come a long way in the last 6 years. So he can joke about broadband and connectivity, but I sit on the PSC Broadband Advisory Board. I keep close contact with PSC in terms of Angie Dickinson and David Cadgigal, the Chief Information Officer. There's a lot of good things happening in Wisconsin. There's been a good investment in broadband, so I continue to work that way as well. I know that he also has hit me up on Adam Jarko's bill regarding drinking age.
You would lower it to 19.
Yeah, right. We talked about lowering it to 19. I know that he has made statements about how that would affect the highway funds. Well, if he would have read the proposal, clearly in the proposal it says that we wouldn't do this unless we didn't lose the federal highway funds. So it's these half-truths that you get through all the campaign periods. But I think the voters in the 34th Assembly District will figure it out in the end. And I'm looking forward for their support November 6th.
Republican Representative Rob Swearengin of Rhinelander is seeking re-election in the 34th Assembly District. Representative, thanks for talking to Wisconsin Eye.
Always a pleasure. Thanks, Steve.
Thanks.
Campaign 2018 is sponsored by Wisconsin Hospital Association, Wisconsin Counties Association, Wisconsin Realtors Association, Marshfield Clinic Health System, AARP Wisconsin, and Campaign 2018 partner Milwaukee Journal Sentinel.